Hey, what is up everybody, and welcome back to the Middle Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and it is time to continue my 10 Blu-rays or 4Ks from a specific year video series. And today we're going to be diving into the year of 1984. And what's funny about this is I actually started this series with 1984. I did it all the way back in 1984 month, back in March. If you were subscribed to me back then, I recommended 10 Blu-rays that I thought you should own from 1984. That was the first video, but I just thought that there was, because I took that and I went back and I did 1980, 1979, then I started to work my way up again, and I said there's enough to mine from 1984, because if you guys don't know, look it up, 1984, and you will know definitively when we get done with these recommendations. 1984 is one of the best years in cinematic history. Just has some of the greatest films of all time, and we're going to discuss a lot of those here today. We're going to discuss some under the radar ones as well, but I started the series with 1984, and we're going to continue it today with part 2 for 1984, and I've got another group of bangers here to discuss. Before we get into it, hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. We discuss Blu-rays, 4Ks, physical media, owning the movies that you love every single day on this channel, and you would definitely enjoy it. So hit the subscribe button. Damn, I'm sorry I got a little heated right there. I got a little heated, I apologize, but hit the subscribe button. Also like the video and comment down below, guys. We're gonna go through 10 movies that I think you should own on Blu-ray, but there's way more than 10 movies that came out in the year of 1984. If you have any other recommendations for me, let me know in that comment section below, and then turn on the bell notifications for all future videos. So we're gonna start off, guys, with the first movie, and this one's on 4K, and it's a recent release, and that is Red Dawn on 4K. So Shout Factory just put this out. This is a Shout Select title with the spine number 13. So I figured this would be a good way for me to include this in my 1984 series, but also review the latest 4K from Shout Factory of Red Dawn. So I really enjoyed this movie. I think a lot more than the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it, but admittedly, it gets a little meandering. I feel like I don't think it needs to be 2 hours. I still feel that way, but it's still a really good movie. And the opening of this movie is just, oh my God, it's so terrifying. Just the kids in the classroom, you see the paratroopers coming in, you just feel that dread. It's one of the most terrifying openings to any movie I've ever seen, to just put yourselves in those shoes of the students and the people in that town and just the entire United States, honestly, to see all these people just invade and just start shooting people and taking people out. It's a terrifying sequence. I really enjoyed this movie on the rewatch, and I can tell you right now, you got Patrick Swayze in this movie. You got Leah Thompson in this movie, who really plays a badass character, honestly. Charlie Sheen's in here. Jennifer Grey, who's also a badass as well. I do like how the film, portrayed these women, and they really incorporated the themes of, the guys aren't the only ones that have to defend the United States. We had the women have to step up as well. And Leah Thompson, Jennifer Grey played great badasses. They had guns. They were joining in on the fight. It was really cool to see, and it felt organic. It didn't feel like they were pushing, an agenda down your throat. Again, another mark of why movies in the 80s and 90s were so great. C. Thomas Howell's in this movie. I just watched him in The Outsiders from 1983, so it was cool to see him back. But a lot of great people in this movie. And yeah, just a really good movie. Do I think it's a little unrealistic that these students of this town would become like soldiers within 2 months? Yes, I do. And be able to fight off the Russians and the Cuban armies. Yeah, I do kind of think that's a little unrealistic, but you have to kind of suspend your belief there for a little bit and, just go along for the ride. So Red Dawn from 1984, I would absolutely recommend, but I would recommend really that you pick up this Shout Factory 4K because it looks amazing. They did an incredible job on this 4K transfer. A lot of this movie is set outside and has kind of this outdoor scenery. That just looks fantastic. There's a lot of like mountain settings and all that stuff looks great, but the facial detail, just all the settings, you go through the winter, you go through the summer, and just all the seasons, and just the aesthetic change of the outside is just all perfectly captured in this beautiful 4K transfer. So I would highly recommend that you pick up this Red Dawn Shout Factory 4K release. Now, the one thing I will say is what everybody's complaining about. Dolby Atmos. It says it has Dolby Atmos on the case. That was a printing error by Shout Factory. It does not have Dolby Atmos. It was never supposed to have Dolby Atmos, so just keep that in mind when you get this and you look on the back, you're like, ooh, Dolby Atmos. I didn't know it was supposed to have Dolby Atmos. So you put it in, you're horribly disappointed. It's not supposed to have Dolby Atmos. So Red Dawn on 4K. I do recommend that you add this one to the collection. I love the original. It has an awesome steelbook that I don't think you can still get. But I do like the slipcover, just the original poster. I'm really digging these Scream Factory, Shout Factory 4Ks recently using the original posters. You know, open it up and you got that on the inside. I'll kind of do a little unboxing. I don't think you get any new special features. These are all the same special features from the original Shout Factory Blu-ray that I think came out in 2016, if I might be wrong in that, but got some cool disc art on the inside as well. So this is a really cool movie. Again, suspend your belief a little bit. You know, these students wouldn't be able to take it to the Russian and Cuban armies like they do in this movie. They wouldn't be able to turn into such well-trained soldiers in the matter of like 2 or 3 months. But I'll go along for the ride. I'll go along with it. It's okay, Red Dawn. And it's a good movie. I like this movie significantly better this time than I did the first time I watched it. And I still liked it the first time I watched it. I just, you know, thought it was a little slow. But Red Dawn's a good movie. You can get it, the Shout Factory 4K for $27.99. And I think that's a very fair price for this 4K. I think it's an excellent release by Shout Factory. Now let's get into the next recommendation. How could we, and I said we're going to get into some heavy hitters. The first time I did this, I tried to steer clear of some of the heavy hitters from this year. I'm going full on in, guys, and we're going to talk about Terminator, the Terminator. You have to own the Terminator in the collection. Oh my God, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. Directed by James Cameron. Not his first movie, but you know, one of his first movies. The first movie that I think would put him on the map as a director, for sure. But oh my God, I revisited this film for the first time in a few years this year, and I actually have a review up for it on the channel. Maybe if I can go back, I'll link it up here or something. But I go full on in depth into this movie, and after I saw this, I've thought my entire life T2 is the best Terminator movie. After I rewatched this, I was rethinking it. I was like, maybe this is the best Terminator movie. This is a damn good movie. It's definitely more of like a horror slasher type film than an action film, which the second one is. But I love this movie. I think Arnold is super mean and nasty in this film and just scary. He is honestly in this movie, I think he's scarier than Michael Myers. I think he's scarier than Jason. This dude is jacked up, but Arnold is beefy in this film. Looks fantastic. You got Linda Hamilton. She's kind of, you know, she's not the action hero Linda Hamilton that we would come to know and love in T2, but you know, she's great in the movie. You got Michael Biehn in this film, is fantastic. Just a really solid, like, you know, on the run type movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger just taking down everybody in his path, really living up to the name of the Terminator. And again, as much as I love T2, I think this might be the best, you know, version of the Terminator, because in the second one, you know, he's the good guy, but in this one, he's the bad guy. But damn, is he mean in this movie. And I love the Terminator. You have to have the Terminator in your collection. You can get this one on Blu-ray for $13.44. But my God, guys, can I just plead for a second? This movie needs a damn 4K, and it needs it now. Damn it. And do a better job than Terminator 2, for Christ's sake. But damn it, is Cameron ever going to get up off his ass and do some 4K transfers for us? But the first one we need is Terminator. Screw Titanic. I like Titanic a lot. Screw Titanic. I love True Lies. Screw True Lies. I need the Terminator on 4K right now. This movie would look amazing in 4K. We need it now. The Terminator. Okay, so the next one, my third, you know, Blu-ray recommendation or 4K recommendation for 1984 has to go to, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this one. I'm going to be highlighting this movie for a lot of people, I imagine. It's a pretty under the radar film. I don't think a lot of people's really heard of this, but Ghostbusters. Have you guys heard of Ghostbusters before? It's a really great movie from 1984. You know, it's about some guys and, you know, they fight some ghosts. They bust them. But yeah, Ghostbusters. It's awesome. Check it out. For sure. Moving on. No, I'm just joking, guys. I'm just joking. Ghostbusters. Oh my God. This is the movie of 1984. Like, this is one of the greatest movies of all time. Just all these comedic geniuses coming together to pull off this hybrid of like comedy and science fiction and horror and adventure. And this movie just takes everything and just puts it all together, and it shouldn't have worked, but it did, and it just created one of the most unique movie watching experiences of all time. They cannot replicate this movie. Let you know, they tried to with the 2016 Girl Ghostbuster movie, and it failed miserably, so they tried to do a different approach with the newest one. I think that worked a little bit better, because they just treated it more like a Spielberg type movie, you know, coming of age film. And I think that worked because you cannot recapture the magic of these four men together in this movie and their dynamic and their chemistry together. You know, Harold Ramis, you got Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson. You cannot recreate the magic of those four men together in this movie, busting ghosts, and Sigourney Weaver, and just the cast is incredible. Rick Moranis. The cast in this movie is insane. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. Just one of the most quotable movies of all time. I imagine everybody's seen Ghostbusters. I don't need to explain the greatness of Ghostbusters or go on and on about it, but Ghostbusters is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, if you've been living under a rock, you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I only had this Blu-ray Steelbook. I got this at Walmart a number of years ago. It's a really great steelbook with the librarian, which I love the opening of this movie. It's so fantastic. But you can still get the steelbook for $22.96. But honestly, I would go the 4K route. The 4K is available for $17.49. I haven't done it yet. I'm kind of waiting for that like a definitive like box set, not the Ghost Trap set that sold out and now goes for like $300. I don't care about that. I just want some kind of box set with all the special features from the Ghost Trap set. You know, the first one and the second one and the new one, just in a little box set, you know, make it a little bit cheaper. I don't need all the flash of the Ghost Trap and stuff. I wish they would have done another set. But I want to buy all the 4Ks when they put them out together in another set for sure. But yeah, Ghostbusters. You gotta own it in your collection. Does anybody not have this in the collection? Ghostbusters on Blu-ray. That's a must. That is a must. Now, we truly are going to get into some more under-the-radar movies. For sure, some more obscure movies from 1984. Maybe there's some of your favorites, but I think I reviewed quite a few of these during my 1984 month, but I just wanted to bring them back up here. But Dreamscape is a really cool movie, really cool like science fiction horror movie from 1984. You got Dennis Quaid in this movie, you got Kate Capshaw, Willie from Temple of Doom, who also came out this year as well. I don't have it in the stack, but Temple of Doom is another great movie from 1984 that came out. But yeah, this is a really fun cast. Christopher Plummer's in this movie, Max von Sydow's in this film. Just a really cool science fiction film about dreams and going into the dreams and how the dreams kind of bleed into reality. And it's really interesting because this movie came out the same year as another movie that I'm going to talk about later on in the stack. And they're very closely tied together as far as their themes and their storyline. But they are, at the end of the day, unique from each other, and they do kind of stand alone. But it's kind of interesting how they both came out within like 2 months of each other for sure. But Dreamscape is a must-own in the collection. I really enjoyed this movie for sure. And you can get this Scream Factory or Shout Factory. I think this is a Shout Factory title. Or no, this is a Scream Factory release. You can get this Scream Factory release for $17.99. And if you're lucky enough, because I just ordered this year, and I still got the slipcover. I ordered this off of Amazon, and I still got the slipcover for the Scream Factory release. So recommend you order it from Amazon. Maybe you get lucky like me and still get the slipcover. So if you care about that kind of thing, I know some people don't care about it, but all right, let's talk about Streets of Fire. This is a really cool movie, kind of like an alternate universe, kind of like an alternate dystopian reality, but you got some like heavy rock and roll influences in this movie. You got Diane Lane, who's like a rock star at the beginning of the film. And then you got a motorcycle gang led by Willem Dafoe, who's just an absolute maniac in the film. He's great as well. Just a really great cast and just a really cool movie. It's just got some really cool vibes to it. So I absolutely recommend that you get Streets of Fire. You can get this Shout Factory version for $22.99. But I was also gifted this amazing steelbook by a subscriber. And it's an awesome looking steelbook. You got Diane Lane singing on the cover as well. But yeah, just a great steelbook, but highly recommend Streets of Fire from 1984. I feel like it's a little bit under the radar pick, but anyway, if you want to see Willem Dafoe just go full Willem Dafoe in his youth, in his early days, you watch Streets of Fire. He's fantastic in the movie. Night of the Comet is a really fun kind of apocalyptic zombie type movie. It's basically a comet comes over and it turns everybody into the undead except for a couple of girls and this guy who are inside at the time, and they come out and they have to survive against this pack of zombies, and there's this other like research facility that takes them in and tries to experiment on them, and it's just the whole thing. But it's really fun, and it's really fun because of the cast. The two girls in this movie, you got Catherine Mary Stewart, and you got Kelly Maroney, who Catherine Mary Stewart was in The Last Starfire, and Kelly Maroney was in another movie I watched recently, Chopping Mall, and she's fantastic in both. She just has such a like natural likability and charisma to her in her performance. I really want to check out more of the stuff that she was in, but they're great together. They're dynamic. Their chemistry is really great together. It's a really fun movie. for sure. But yeah, it's kind of a zombie movie, but I will say I was a little disappointed when I watched this because it was a little light on the zombie action. I was hoping for a little bit more with this movie, but Night of the Comet, it's fantastic anyway. It's a great movie from 1984. Would recommend it. $14.99 for the Scream Factory version of Night of the Comet. So again, highly recommend that one, adding it to your collection. And again, we got to talk about another obscure movie from 1984, a movie that doesn't have a 5-season Netflix series based on it. That's like one of the most popular series on the planet. It doesn't at all. The Karate Kid. And I got the shirt on, Cobra Kai. Of course, we got to talk about the Karate Kid. Again, I talked about Ghostbusters being the most iconic film of this year. The Karate Kid, with the addition of Cobra Kai, you know, Alan, again, it's extremely popular. This might be, again, because I imagine a lot of people that watched Cobra Kai went back and watched this movie. This might be the more iconic movie than Ghostbusters in 1984 at this point. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below. Which one is more iconic? Is it the Karate Kid or is it Ghostbusters? Let me know. Or is it the Terminator? You might think it's a Terminator. Terminator's great as well. But the Karate Kid is just, I don't know, it's just one of the greatest coming-of-age stories of all time. It's such an inspiring movie. It's a kid that just has the odds stacked against him and he fights to succeed. And it's just one of those movies that when you get to the end, you're just in that John Carlos Esposito song, so you're the best around in that whole tournament sequence and you're just on the edge of your seat just cheering every single moment. It's such a satisfying film with just great characters and great character arcs. It's just such a great movie, directed by John G. Avildsen, which it's just the king of directing just inspiring, emotional, sports-type movies. With this movie, with Rocky, he directed two of the greatest movies of all time. If you haven't seen The Karate Kid, again, it's just one of the most important movies of all time. So you can get this 4K for $17.99, but the bad thing is that this 4K that I have right here is a part of the box set, the newly released box set by Sony, and I think that's going for about 50 or 60 bucks right now. But the thing is that this 4K adds in Dolby Vision, so it is a better quality 4K disc than the one that's available by itself for $17.99. So if you want this one, you're gonna have to purchase 2 and 3 as well on 4K, which I've heard great things about the transfers for those as well. But the Karate Kid on 4K, it's a must. Add it to the collection. Get the $17.99 4K if you don't have it yet. The Karate Kid absolutely needs to be in your collection. Another great movie from 1984. Let's get into my next one. We're going to get into some horror territory here right now. We're going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street. This is where Freddy Krueger got his start. Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Just one of the most iconic horror movies of all time, with one of the most iconic horror villains of all time. It does not get any more iconic than Freddy frickin' Krueger. And it's just a great movie. It's so atmospheric. I go back and forth all the time. What's my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street? Is it this one? Is it Dream Warriors? I'm pretty sure it's this one. There's just something about this movie. It's just so scary. It just really gets under my skin every single time I watch it. It's just such a great idea. The fact that you could fall asleep and somebody stalks you in your dreams. And if you die in your dreams, you die for real. And again, this is the one I was talking about with Dreamscape. Similar themes there, because if you got hurt or died in Dreamscape in your dreams, you died for real. So both had similar concepts. I don't think anybody ripped anything off of each other. It was just one of those things that they both came out around the same time. You know, and this one's definitely more heavily rooted in horror, where Dreamscape is more sci-fi. But this is just a fantastic horror movie. If you have not seen it, it's one of the most iconic movies of all time. You got to check it out. The first movie with Johnny Depp in it as well. The very first movie. This is his introduction into movies, as A Nightmare on Elm Street. So you can get this Blu-ray for $9.99, and I'm so, you know, depressed to report that we have nothing better than this Blu-ray release. No 4K yet. How does The Nightmare on Elm Street not have a freaking 4K? It's ridiculous. Or the box set from Scream Factory. When are we getting this? When are we getting this from Scream Factory and all that stuff? It's ridiculous. You know, at this point, I'll just take a Warner Brothers 4K of the first one. I mean, I just want the first one on 4K. I certainly want all the rest of them with great scans. Again, you can get a box set of all of them, but I've heard trash things about it. So I'm just going to keep my, you know, DVD set of this. But A Nightmare on Elm Street, you got to own it. $9.99 to get the Blu-ray. This is a really good looking Blu-ray, though. I do like the Blu-ray transfer on that one as well. So A Nightmare on Elm Street is a must own. Speaking of Scream Factory box sets, let's talk about Friday the 13th. The final chapter came out in 1984, and this is what a lot of people would say is the best Friday the 13th film. There's not a lot of people that I think would dispute that. There are certainly, you know, some that would say part 2's better or their favorite. Like me, I'm a part 2 guy. They would say, you know, the third one's the best or the first one's the best. But most people will tell you that Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is the best Friday the 13th film. And I can't really argue. Again, I like the second one better. But this is just one of the most well-constructed Friday the 13th films that there is. And I mean, Ted White just makes an incredible Jason. He's so great in this movie. The finale, the effects work. This is when Tom Savini came back after his 2-film absence from the first one to do the makeup effects and the gore effects. And they're just so fantastic. You have that ending scene where Jason's just, his head's just sliding down that machete. It's so iconic. You got, you know, Corey Feldman in this film as Tommy Jarvis. It's such a great horror movie. You got Crispin Glover in this film, given one of the most iconic, I cannot talk about this movie without talking about the dance. One of the most iconic dance sequences in any film comes from Crispin Glover in this movie. But it's just a fun cast. The characters are all extremely likable. The kills are fantastic. It is probably the best Friday the 13th movie. It's one of the greatest slashers of all time. Again, I like some of the other ones better, but I think it's hard to dispute that this is the best of the series for sure. But you can get the Friday the 13th box set for $90 if you want to get this one along with the 11 other movies and sequels. But if you just want the final chapter, you can get it for $6.99 right now on Amazon. So highly recommend the final chapter. Again, if you haven't seen any of the Jason movies, I love all the Friday the 13th films. I think it's one of the most consistent horror franchises out there. Get the box set and watch them all. I highly recommend it. Let's talk about my final recommendation from 1984. And I just finished watching this one on 4K. Now this set was gifted to me by a subscriber as well. And I want to thank John so much for sending this to me. Such an incredible set. But Cloak and Dagger on 4K from Vinegar Syndrome. And I just watched this one last night. The 4K transfer on this is so good. Like, Vinegar Syndrome did an excellent job of the 4K transfer. And I haven't checked out a lot of Vinegar Syndrome's 4K. I watched Dead Heat earlier this year in 4K. It looked really good. Didn't look great, but this one, oh my God, this was an excellent 4K transfer by Vinegar Syndrome for sure. They did a spectacular job on this release. But this is a really fun, like, kids adventure, like espionage thriller. Like, it's another one that's a lot of things rolled into one. You know, it's Henry Thomas in this movie, fresh off his E.T. fame, and he was like at the height of his popularity, you know, as a kid star at this time. So it's a fun movie. It's got a fun, you know, kind of story to it, and it's very, if you're a fan of like the old school, like retro video games and stuff, it has like an Atari influence as well, and they kind of incorporate that into the story. But I highly, especially if you're a fan of this movie, you remember it from your childhood, I highly recommend this Vinegar Syndrome release. Now, I think you're going to have a tough time getting it with this packaging, but just look at this packaging. This is a magnetic case that opens up, and then you get this like booklet inside, and you have like the video game stuff inside it as well. And you get like a whole booklet. I'm sorry, I'm going to do an unboxing. I've already done this on the channel before, but I just love showing it off. And then you get this, you know, slip cover right here that just looks like an Atari case, and that's so awesome. And then right here, you got the 4K cover of Cloak and Dagger. You know, the stuff on the back. This has got some great special features in it as well. You got a new interview with Henry Thomas. You got a new interview with the writer, Tom Holland, who also directed the first Child's Play film and Fright Night. So you get a new interview with Tom Holland talking about this, about 25-30 minutes. It's kind of like a making of, and again, it's not just Tom Holland, there's some other people involved in that interview, so it's like a making of the movie. So really cool that we're getting, you know, 2 brand new interviews in the set. It's about 50 minutes of new footage, and you get some archival special features as well. So, and I was looking it up, and the 4K is the only way you can own this right now, I think, outside of DVD, because I was looking up on Blu-ray.com, and I don't think that this had a Blu-ray, at least domestically, before. So the 4K you have to get if you want to get this one in an updated format. But just a fantastic release, and it looked incredible. Some great special features. This packaging's top notch. But again, I think you're going to have a hard time getting it with this packaging. Now, one thing I did notice is that this is going to get a re-release and a restock. So I don't know if it's in stock right now. You can probably get it, look for it on eBay or deep discount or something like that. But $44.98, this is going to be coming out later this year in September, on September the 27th to be exact. So they're going to be re-releasing it then. and I cannot recommend this Vinegar Syndrome release highly enough. This is a great release. It's a really fun movie, but the 4K transfer is incredible. So Cloak and Dagger is another really fun film from 1984 that I think you need to have in the collection. So there you have it, guys. That is 10 movies from 1984 that I think you need to own on Blu-ray and 4K. Let me know in the comment section below some of your other recommendations from 1984. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, turn on those bell notifications for all of those future videos. Follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.